Vandy has added a plethora of weapons this offseason. Jerry Kill may be the most impactful.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. On today's episode, we take a quick peek at what Mark Byington has done with summer workouts in his first month of actual practices. Also, with all the rule changes, the ability to have unlimited coaches that are eligible to coach on the sidelines could prove to be a game changer. But most importantly, Vandy added a plethora of weapons this offseason, and Jerry Kill may be the most impactful of those weapons. So, of all the changes, right, of the entire infrastructure overhaul that Clark Lea has been through this entire offseason, made a bunch of moves in the transfer portal, made a bunch of moves on the coaching staff, made a bunch of moves in the recruiting operation, in the strength and conditioning training operation. All of that was completely overtaken, overhauled, whatever you want to call it. So, but to me, I think one of the and at the time it was kind of insignificant because of the nature of the title and the off-field role and things like that he was going to carry. But the most impactful one, I believe, is going to be Jerry Kill. And here's why. Because Jerry Kill is the one who is he is known to be a program builder. Okay. And he's the one that is giving all kinds of advice on every aspect of the program to Clark Lea. I think this is the last phase of Clark Lea's head coach training, which seems kind of odd to say and heading into year 4, but it seems like this renaissance of Coach Lea will prove that this move probably led to that the most. And you're getting sound advice on things to do, on everything from how you set your recruiting territories, how you handle contacts, how you structure practice, how you operate on game days, logistically from the very start of the day all the way through when you release the players for the day or for the evening, and just kind of everything in between, team meals, all that stuff. Jerry Kill's been through it at multiple programs, and he's been in that seat at multiple programs and had success in that seat at multiple programs. So he knows what he's doing. He's also had time in an advisory role. He did the same for Sonny Dykes at TCU. He's been other places as well. I'm not going to list them all, but he then built New Mexico State into a viable program. They won 10 games, which if you told me New Mexico State was going to be a 2-time 10-win winner recently, I would have told you you're crazy, because like they're New Mexico State, like they haven't had any prestige. So it's one of those things where you look at it and say, what is the recipe here? What is he doing to make this happen? And I think it comes down to relationships, building genuine relationships around the building, throughout the locker room, throughout the training room, throughout the weight room, the offices, the staffers, the academic wing, stuff like that. I mean, I think he's such a personable guy, and he's such a relationship builder that people just can't help but follow in behind him, right? And so this has allowed Clark Lea, who has also decided, when he went through broad sweep of overhaul stuff, when he decided that he was going to uproot both his coordinators, he was going to take over the defense. But we all know that when a head coach takes coordinator duties, whether it's offense or defense, it's a tough task. it is a very tough task to manage everything you need to manage as a head coach and everything you need to manage as a coordinator, much less at the SEC level. So this move proves that Clark Lea is secure in his position as head coach. He knows that, hey, in order to be the best, I need to go out and recruit the best. I need to assemble people around me that are going to elevate this program and elevate me as a head coach. And I can get as much from them as they can from me, and truly building a really great team around him. And you have to be a secure person to build a team of intelligent, idealistic people around you, because most people, when they let their ego get in the way, they want yes people around them, right? They want the proverbial yes man. Okay, this is how we're going to do it. And then they expect everybody to go around the room and say, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. When in reality, in order to make a program, especially a program of this size, with the changing landscape of how staffs are constructed, from the recruiting and scouting operation to the strength program to analysts to quality control to position coaches and the new regulations and things that are happening and the new positions that are created as a result, I think you have to look at things a little bit differently. And I think you have to be able to have people in your corner that you trust to give you input. And those people are going to go gather the input from the others that are a little bit further down the ladder. Because in a staff meeting, it'll go on forever if you let everyone talk all the time. So I think you have to be coordinated in that as well, because you want everybody's voice to be heard. But I think there's a way of going about doing that. And I think that's one of the things that people don't realize that Jerry Kill's probably been able to do, is help the operation run smoothly. He's been able to see things that Clark Lea is not seasoned enough to see as a head coach. And he's in his corner giving him those things and saying, hey, this is coming up. This is how I would handle it. This is how I think it should, this is my opinion on it. Take it or leave it. You have final call, obviously, but if you're asking me, this is what I would do. Okay. That is an absolute game changer for Clark Lea, because it brings a new perspective. A new perspective is great. New perspective is always welcome, always great, and always a great thing to have. So just that alone, I think, is extremely valuable. I think Jerry Kill gets to also the reason why I think he's an absolute weapon for this offense and for this team is all the things I just mentioned off the field with operations and things like that. But during practice, he gets to participate to the capacity that he wants to, which I think for his health's sake is great. I don't know exactly how much he's participating. I imagine he can't help himself. He's probably participating more than the doctors would want him to participate. And they would probably have a fit if they realize just how much he is actually involved. But he's a great mentor to Tim Beck, which he's been for the last 2 years at New Mexico State. And I imagine at other stops too. He's been a great mentor to Diego Pavia and the other offensive coaches and really just everybody on staff, because he's that other guy. He's the guy. He's like, everybody looks up to Jerry Kill. You go around the coaching community, I guarantee you, not one bad thing would be said about Jerry Kill. I guarantee it. And he's well respected in the coaching community, and he brings that pedigree to Vandy. So when he's involved in practice, he's helping logistically get things going. He's helping clear things up. He's helping motivate guys. He's making sure that he's going around and adding to each of the position groups, and just providing that little extra piece of information schematically or from, the sum of the parts, and lets obviously the position coach drill down the details. But he's like, hey, make sure, da-da-da-da, or if he sees something, he's gonna say something, and people respect him. So he's able to do that. And then in the film room, I imagine scouting wise, quality control checking, things for Tim Beck and ultimately for Clark Lee and Clark Lee made mention of this in SEC Media Days, that he has taken some of those head coaching administrative tasks off of his plate. So that's also a huge benefit too, because now it frees Clark Lee up to go be the defensive coordinator. And Jerry Kill has, and they've explicitly said, hey, Jerry has allowed me to be the defensive coordinator. And when I need to be the defensive coordinator, and obviously when he needs to be the head coach, that takes precedent because he is officially the head coach of Vanderbilt football. But Jerry Kill being there allows him definitely to step away and say, okay, I need to focus on the defense right now. And Jerry Kill's like, dude, I got this, man. Just go do your thing. And that's very, very, very valuable. Recruiting wise, he's somebody that has savvy in recruiting techniques. He's somebody that can sell a program. He's very outspoken. He's very opinionated. He is not shy whatsoever. And he's going to tell you, he's going to be a good evaluator, and he's going to be a good seller for your program. So anytime there's visits, he's there. He's pumping these kids up with with the black and gold, and he's selling the program, and he's doing everything that he can. And this is going to be a huge asset for Vandy. And then the last piece is on game day, man. And the role that he plays on the role that he will play, I imagine, on game day with these new rules is awesome. And the new rule is this, and we'll dive into how it affects Vandy here in a little bit. But there's a new rule that basically on game days, your analysts and your quality control guys are eligible to coach players on the sidelines. They're not just on headsets and taking stats and notes and things. They're able to actually coach. And what it's gonna come down to is that all these analysts and quality control guys are going to be assistant position coaches. This is really what it's going to kind of turn into. It's going to be an NFL model. But we'll talk more about that and Jerry Kill's role in that as well. We'll do all of that next. Stay with me. Right, this episode is brought to you by Gametime. You got it. Did you know that Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier, and prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Now, I am browsing through, and what I've actually found is this, and this is a blast from the past. Hootie and the Blowfish is coming to Bridgestone Arena here in Nashville on Saturday, and I'm looking at some of these deals. They have a super deal for section 327 row M. You get 10% off. Tickets have been marked down to $19, so you better jump on those fast, right? There's also $16 tickets. They've been marked off by 10% in section 333 row S. And the cheapest, that is the cheapest actually. But what I love, and the interface here is great. If you can see my phone, this is kind of what it looks like. And you can click on, let's click on, hold on. Let's click on this, right? And you see, as I twist my phone, you see the panoramic view of the seat, right? So that's a really, really cool thing. So those are some qualities where I'm not going to go to Hootie and the Blowfish. I'll be out of town. But if you're in the Atlanta area, by the way, come check me out, come see me. But this is a lot of fun. I love this app because you have last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater. You have flash deals, which I just showed you. You save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of a game or event. Zone deals. You save even more when you choose the section and let Gametime choose the seats. All in pricing. That allows you to, there's no surprise fees. It shows you total up front. Seat views, which I just showed you, that is the selling point right there. Panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. They have the lowest ticket price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference, and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Man, if all of this sounds great to you, here's what you need to do. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime, or to any tickets for that matter. Download Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN and you are so sick of all that shouting? Well, you need to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And speaking of every day, shout out to you everydayers as we roll on towards football season. Shout out to you everydayers. My subscribers are growing slowly, but they're growing. And more of you are starting to become aware of this show. So thank you. Tell your friends. Tell anybody you're friends with. If you have an Auburn friend, I noticed an Auburn fan comment on one of my videos. If you're an LSU fan, I went on the Golden Boot podcast and had a really great time there. So all you LSU fans, feel free to jump in. I think that, there's a lot of great rule changes this offseason. And one of my favorite rule changes is, I think I think these three rule changes that I'm going to talk about, or that I've talked about before, I think the technology ones where you allow the tablets on the sidelines, and then now the earpiece in the helmets. I think those two were well overdue. I think it was stupid not to have the tablets, the earpieces and the helmets. I understand I understand kind of the delay on that, because you're looking at how to fund all of that, and it's not an easy thing to pull off. And the NFL is just a way smaller scale, and they can pull that off a lot easier. So I think that one understandably took. I mean, even though it was overdue and they needed it, I think it obviously took a little bit of time, but glad it's there. The tablets, that should have been done a long time ago. But you could have had companies that jump on board and create deals and things like that for schools that might have trouble affording it and things like that. So that would have been a great chance for Huddle to really boost, like Coach Com with headsets. So like they had college models, they had like small college models, and then they had high school models and things like that. So like they took their business plan, their business model, and really just kind of, made it college friendly, made it to where they could get business at all the levels. But that's neither here nor there. We can nerd out on a tech episode later. So, but one of my rules that I thought was just it was getting kind of ridiculous, because you're starting to add these positions, and you see a lot of guys standing on the sideline, or a lot of women too, whoever. You see a lot of people standing on the sidelines with headsets that you don't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of standing there. The microphone is up, and they're either holding a clipboard, they're holding a play sheet. They're kind of just walking around, and occasionally they'll hand their headset to the quarterback, or it looks like they're talking to somebody upstairs, or there's people upstairs charting. It just got kind of confusing as to what the roles were. Now, the new rule is that you have an unlimited amount of coaches that are able to coach on the sidelines. Now, I think that excludes strength coaches, because they're not really going to be coaching anyway. They're probably just going to be there for motivational support. But like the analysts and the quality control guys are coaches. They're either aspiring coaches who are breaking in, or they're retired or on their way out, or they just got fired, or whatever the case may be. Successful people that have been in, they're coaches. And the fact that they're not able to coach, they can just hold up a card at practice and they can lead film stuff, but they can't really coach. I think that's a little bit, that can get a little bit ridiculous. And I understand the disparity of the staffs at a place like Georgia and a place like Kent State, or at the FCS level or whatever. Like, I get there's different sizes of coaches and what these schools are able to do, but I think, within reason, whoever you have available, like these programs would find ways to equal it out. I think your Kennesaw States of the world will find a way to make it work, right? I know at UT Martin, one of my former students is the video coordinator there. He's the lead guy and he's a student. Like, that's how they find staffers. They do that. Like, you're not going to make any money really being in those positions at those places where they have to expand the staffs to kind of keep up. But like SCS is going to have their own system going where it's a little bit fair. I mean, anytime you get UT Martin stepping on the field with Ohio State, it's never going to be totally fair because just look at it, but having the unlimited amount of coaches is going to be an absolute game changer, because now you can really get creative in how you assess your roles. Like Jerry Kill, he can kind of be your guy on the field, your liaison to the quarterback. He can really kind of help Coach Lee with head coaching things like, hey, you should call timeout here, or hey, it's fourth down. Hey, I would go for this, or any sort of head coaching decisions. He can kind of be there as support for Clark Lee. Also, as Diego Pavia comes off the field between series, he can be the guy that's, calms him down, talks him through things, puts him on the sets with Tim Beck, and he's good. He can be the guy that kind of just gets that going. You have a bunch of analysts with iPads pulling players aside and going over stuff. Like, they know the coaching points. They can be there. Like, you could pull, like, if you're an analyst and you're always with the offensive line. So like what I said earlier about these analysts and these quality control guys becoming assistant position coaches, like, you could be the assistant O-line coach, not by title, but like you can technically be that. And you can pull, like, let's say you pull Gunnar Hansen aside and say, all right, Gunnar, check this out. Here on this play, your steps were this. If he does this, you do that, and just going over on the iPad with Gunnar Hansen, and you're standing there one-on-one. And last year you couldn't do that. That would have been a violation. Now you can. Things like that, like being able to do some stuff like that. And obviously you're going to have GAs and other analysts up in the booth also charting. And those guys won't be able to coach players directly, but you will have a lot of information being flowed through the sidelines, and you'll have a lot more people getting coached up, because what's going to happen is the coaches are going to train the off the field guys, and the off the field guys are going to be well versed enough to be able to one-on-one show somebody some clips and say, this is what we need to do to fix it. Things like that. And oftentimes with the guidance of the actual position coach, and the hierarchy is still going to remain. Everything's going to come down from the head coach, the coordinators, position coaches, quality control analysts, GAs. It's all going to follow that chain. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that happens. I'm a big fan of that. I think it's going to make the game more. I think it's going to make the game more competitive. I think it's going to be whatever. So. I like it. I think it's going to be great. But we're going to shift gears here when we come back. Basketball. They've been going for about a month now in summer workouts. There's a lot of positive buzz around the basketball program. It's gonna make it to where when November gets here, there's going to be a lot of excitement around this program. We'll talk about Mark Byington next. All right, welcome back. Third and final segment. We're wrapping up the show here in a few minutes, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank the everydayers. I can't thank you guys enough, really, if you think about it. But thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. When you're done here in about 5 minutes, make Locked On SEC your next listen. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job there. Got a crossover in the works with Zach Blackerby of Locked On Auburn, so we'll chop it up with him here. But in the meantime, if you want to check out his show, go for it. Locked On Ole Miss. Vandy does not play Ole Miss this year, so I will not be doing a crossover with Steve unless he just wants to do one for the heck of it. But those are some great shows to look out for. The entire SEC slate's really good. If you want to be the most educated fan base, technically, you go check out those shows. If you're an avid podcast listener, you just have your list of shows that you listen to every day, and you get all of the information. But make sure you start out here. If you like what you hear, at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. So, basketball. There's a lot of optimism right now. Mark Byington is absolutely crushing it. Now, I get it. It's summer workouts. What can you really glean from summer workouts? I think you can glean a lot. I think you see these guys. I think basketball is a sport to where you can really, especially in a setting like this, you can really put these guys in in a lot of competitive situations. And there's not a whole lot of like pressure of getting ready for a game. This is like the spring practice of basketball, right? Where you can really just get down to fundamentals. You can really just see how your guys compete and what skills they have without really putting your entire system out there at a stressful level. You can kind of ease some stuff and all that. So I am excited to see what this basketball program has in store now. And I think you will be excited about Tyler Tanner. He was Mr. Basketball in the state of Tennessee. And he is making a name for himself during these summer workouts. He is somebody that could, with all these transfers, he actually could see the floor. I mean, he's running the floor well of all the guards. He's just getting after it on both ends of the court there. So there's a lot of positive buzz and a positive vibe around Tyler Tanner. I think just overall the operation has been great. As far as them competing and things like that, these guys are answering the call. It helps that this team is entirely new, but it helps that they're answering the bell. Defense, and this is based on an article by Joey Dwyer of VandySports.com. I love what they do over VandySports.com, by the way. But defense has really kind of been the name of the game, which you wouldn't think that based on what we've heard about Mark Byington and what we've studied about Mark Byington. But just them playing on the defensive end has really kind of surprised him, I guess is the operative word here. And then Jason Edwards, man, he is everything that we thought he would be so far. Now we got to get him into some actual SEC games, which we won't know a ton about Jason Edwards until we really get into January, February, and the meat of the SEC schedule. But he's a guy that can put the ball on the floor and take it to the rim. He's a great shot creator. He is dynamic. He is whatever you need him to be. He has a lot of tools, and I think he's going to be a massive part of what's going on here for Vandy hoops. And then, I think your leadership stuff is starting to kind of take off. So the big takeaway from basketball, okay, the reason you say all that stuff, okay, is there's a lot. The big takeaway is right now we're feeling good. We're feeling really good. We've got some dynamic players. We've got a talented freshman in the pipeline that's going to be really good. I think you've got leaders emerging. I think you've got guys that understand the philosophy that Mark Byington is bringing in, and they're really buying into that, pun intended. And they're just kind of taken to playing that style of basketball and really kind of creating an identity for themselves for for Vandy, and then hopefully creating and bringing back that atmosphere that Memorial Gym used to have, where it used to be a feared place to play. Like, people didn't love playing at Memorial Gym because rarely do you go into Memorial Gym and have a pleasant time. And if you won, it was exhausting and you were beat up. If it was a midweek game, it most definitely affected your Saturday game, win or lose. So I think when you look at this, team, you're going to see a team that runs the floor well. They actually play good defense in their philosophy of running the floor, things like that. So very, very positive things from basketball. And I know it seems odd that with training camp starting next week that we'd be talking about basketball, but I thought I'd give them a little shout out because they're crushing it, man. They're absolutely crushing it. And we are absolutely crushing it right here on Locked On Vandy. So that's going to be all I've got for you today. We'll wrap up the week with Zach Blackerby coming up on Friday's episode. And then tomorrow we'll continue on and talk some more interesting topics. As always, if you want to follow the show at Locked On Vandy, if you have anything that you want to talk about at Locked On Vandy, send a message there on any of the other social media platforms, and we'll make sure we get your topic covered. So with that, we hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, better than ever, as always. Anchor down.